The modern global economy is an intricate, complex, and constantly shifting system. Its inherent dynamism presents both opportunities and profound challenges for policymakers. Governments are perpetually engaged in a delicate balancing act, striving for stability amidst this inherent volatility. In this relentless pursuit, various economic levers are pulled, and difficult choices are made. Among these tools, inflation emerges as a potent, yet frequently misunderstood, instrument within the government's economic arsenal. Its true nature and strategic utility warrant deeper examination. At its core, inflation is defined as the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services escalates over a specific period. It is a pervasive economic phenomenon that touches every aspect of our financial lives. This consistent rise in prices means that the cost of living invariably increases over time. A direct consequence of inflation is the erosion of money's purchasing power. As prices climb, each unit of currency, whether a dollar, euro, or yen, incrementally loses its value. Consequently, that same unit of currency will acquire fewer goods and services than it could at an earlier point. For the average individual, the effects of inflation are not theoretical abstractions, but tangible, immediate realities. It manifests most directly as higher prices for the essential goods and services required for daily living. These are the costs that form the bedrock of household budgets. Consider the regular trip to the grocery store, where food staples become noticeably more expensive. Or the consistent increase at the gas pump, impacting transportation costs for commuters and businesses alike. These are the immediate and unavoidable burdens. A critical challenge arises when wages and salaries fail to keep pace with these rising costs. This disparity leads to a decline in real living standards, as individuals find their disposable income shrinking. The pressure on household budgets intensifies, often forcing difficult compromises in spending habits. It is a striking observation that governments often exhibit a strategic preference for a moderate degree of inflation. This preference is particularly pronounced when contrasted with the profound dangers of severe economic crises, such as prolonged deflation or deep recessions. The reasoning behind this choice is rooted in practical economics. Inflation can act as a catalyst for economic activity. By subtly eroding the value of money, it incentivizes immediate spending and investment rather than hoarding. Consumers are encouraged to purchase now before prices rise further, stimulating demand and production. Furthermore, inflation provides a convenient mechanism for managing national and private debt. As prices and incomes nominally increase, existing fixed-rate debts become easier to repay in real terms. This effectively reduces the real burden on borrowers, including governments themselves, providing a form of silent debt relief. Central banks are undeniably the primary custodians of monetary policy within modern economies. Their fundamental mandate often includes the crucial task of managing and mitigating inflationary pressures. This responsibility is a cornerstone of economic stability. To fulfill this role, central banks employ a suite of sophisticated tools. Adjustments to key interest rates are perhaps the most prominent among these, influencing borrowing costs, investment, and ultimately, the overall money supply. Quantitative easing or tightening also fall within their operational scope. Their typical objective is to maintain a stable price level, rather than outright price stagnation. A widely accepted benchmark is an annual inflation rate of approximately 2%. This target represents a delicate balancing act, aiming for growth without sparking uncontrollable price increases. The intricately interconnected nature of the global economy introduces substantial layers of complexity to the management of inflation. Economic events in one nation rarely remain isolated within its borders. We live in an era of undeniable economic interdependence. Consequently, inflation originating in one country can rapidly propagate, triggering ripple effects across international markets. Factors like commodity price shocks, supply chain disruptions, or shifts in major economies exert broad influence. These external pressures are often beyond a single nation's direct control. Such global inflationary trends profoundly impact international trade dynamics, altering the competitiveness of exports and imports. They also create constant flux in currency exchange rates, introducing volatility and uncertainty for businesses and investors operating across jurisdictions. Despite its perceived utility and crisis aversion, the full costs of inflation are not always immediately evident. Moreover, these costs are seldom distributed evenly across society. There exists a clear disparity in who bears the brunt of rising prices. Inflation inherently acts as a regressive tax, disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable segments of society. Those with limited financial resources or restricted access to credit have fewer options to mitigate its impact. Their purchasing power is eroded at a faster, more damaging rate. Individuals relying on fixed incomes, such as retirees on pensions, or those with minimal savings, are particularly susceptible. Their incomes do not adjust upwards with rising prices, leading to a precipitous decline in their real economic well-being. Their accumulated wealth depreciates in real terms. Policymakers frequently confront a difficult and often agonizing trade-off between managing inflation and controlling unemployment. This economic dilemma is a recurring challenge in macroeconomic management. Each objective can seemingly work against the other. Policies specifically engineered to curb inflation, such as raising interest rates or reducing government spending, can inadvertently stifle economic growth. This dampening effect on demand and investment can, in turn, lead to job losses and a rise in unemployment. The consequence is often a slower economy. This predicament presents policymakers with profoundly challenging decisions regarding economic priorities. They must weigh the immediate suffering of unemployment against the long-term corrosive effects of unchecked inflation. It is a choice laden with significant social and political implications. High or sustained inflation carries substantial political implications that extend far beyond economic models. It has the distinct potential to erode public trust in government and its institutions. When daily costs become unbearable, public confidence wavers. Economic instability, frequently exacerbated by unchecked inflation, can act as a potent catalyst for social unrest. Public dissatisfaction can manifest in protests, strikes, and a general sense of societal unease. Maintaining economic stability is thus intrinsically linked to broader political stability. In the long run, sustained periods of high inflation can have deeply corrosive effects on the entire economic fabric. It distorts investment decisions, as future returns become highly uncertain and asset allocation prioritizes inflation hedging over productive investment. This creates pervasive economic uncertainty, hindering long-term planning and genuine wealth creation. Surface-level assumptions regarding inflation often fail to capture its true nuances and profound complexity. It is rarely a straightforward matter of merely observing prices increase. The underlying dynamics are far more intricate than simple cost adjustments. Inflation represents a complex interplay of numerous economic forces, from supply and demand shocks to monetary policy decisions. It is shaped by political choices, domestic fiscal strategies, and international economic relations. Societal consequences, both intended and unintended, invariably follow. Therefore, the perceived preference for inflation over outright crises is often a pragmatic, though ethically fraught response to immediate economic pressures. This choice, while seemingly expedient in the short term, inevitably carries profound and far-reaching long-term consequences that continue to reverberate through economies and societies for years to come.